everyone. Welcome back to the Season 2 finale of the Minute Women podcast. My name is Grace.
And I'm Linnea, and we have some very special guests here with us today for our Season 2 finale. We have the co-hosts and co-creators of Canadian Politics is Boring. We have Jesse and Reese with us.
Welcome, guys.
Hello.
Yes, welcome.
Thanks for having us on the show.
Oh, we're so excited to have you.
We're very
I'm
excited.
very excited to be here.
Yeah.
We have a Heritage Minute virgin with us as well.
We
Oh, yeah.
do. We
You've
have
never seen a
Reese.
single one, have you, Reese?
No, I'm going to pop my Heritage Minute tonight.
That's what kids in Canada have always called it.
Yeah, that's what we say.
Your Heritage
Hope
Minute.
not. That's
We're a very
terrifying.
sexy population of people.
You know, the first time it's only about a minute, so.
But it's one for the history books.
Sure is.
That's so bad.
So we're actually going to do something unique to the episode today because we have two other hosts here with us today. Instead of Grace just telling me about the minute, which we're going to assume that I've probably seen at some point, we're actually going to take a minute and go out and watch it and then come back because, like we said, Reese has never seen a single one,
A single one.
which is wild.
Do I need to make notes?
You absolutely do not need
Okay.
to. It's only a minute.
the
So,
clue's
you know,
in the
that's
name.
the
Yeah.
best part about it. You don't really need to write down anything.
Yeah.
And I've saved, it's one that's like special to me and Linnea.
Oh my
Oh,
God.
good.
It's like, I hold it so dear because it's so awful.
Oh God.
We're gonna do the Gray Owl
my
Heritage
God.
Minute.
No.
with your fellow Brit, Pierce Brosnan.
Pierce Brosnan, yeah.
Pierce
it's
Brosnan
just,
starring in.
Really?
Yeah.
Absolutely
Wow.
not a joke.
If all of you listeners could just see Reese's face right now, because he just looked shocked that Pierce Brosnan is he a
Yeah.
sir? He
No.
seems like the type of actor that would be a sir,
Should
does.
be by now.
He should
but I
He's
don't think he is.
how many
It's-
photos of him do you have around your bed?
I had to take one down.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Too
he's
explicit.
he hasn't been knighted because of that poor performance in Mamma Mia. You know, the
The
queen.
man can't dance.
The queen only
unfortunately.
appreciates people who can sing and dance, and he's not it.
Right now, my head is going, is it Mrs. Doubtfire Pierce Brosnan or is it 007 Pierce
This
Brosnan?
is like pre 007.
Yeah.
Or like
Really?
in and amidst. So the reason he's in the Heritage Minute is because there was a film that was created in Canada, I believe, and then
yeah.
it was edited down to be used as a Heritage Minute.
And
wow.
it's honestly a wonder that Pierce Brosnan has a career after this
this
movie.
particular.
People say that about pretty much every Canadian film out there.
Yeah, well,
This one is, yeah, ooh,
Oh,
spicy.
no. You made a Canadian film? Oh, no.
spicy.
And then he went on to be 007. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Maybe they watched him in this Heritage Minute and were like, that's
That's
James
our
Bond.
man.
That's our guy. So we're just gonna take a minute. We'll be right back, and we'll talk to you
It'll
soon.
take a minute. Ah.
Let's go.
Heritage
let's go watch
Minute.
this pilot. And we're back.
We're back.
We're back.
Just got back from watching
Just wanted to join in.
the best Heritage Minute.
Reese has experienced his first Heritage Minute, and
Yes.
Reese, tell us, how was it?
It was pretty fast.
It's a minute.
It's only a minute, yeah.
No, but that was the thing. I was like, oh, cool, great. I settled down to watch a bit of history. And then by the time I started to form some questions in my head, and by the time I was like, okay, right, what is going on here? It was the end.
Already the
It
end.
was over.
That's how all Canadians have learned about their history.
Yeah.
This is it. 1 minute chunks. We don't know if we've learned something about Canadian history, it's through this.
So
Yeah.
it's essentially, there's no, I feel quite unsatisfied. I felt like I was teased. So was that it? Was to tease people into wanting more history.
Canadian history, very unsatisfying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say that for that particular Heritage Minute in general, I think because they took it from a full-length movie, it doesn't have as much closure as a typical minute has. Usually they're
Yeah.
kind of like a top to end story of something that's happened.
I was going to say that, like, when I first saw it, I was like, holy shit, this... Oh, can we swear on your podcast? Is that a thing?
Oh, hell yeah.
Okay.
It's preferred.
When I first saw it so many years ago, I was like, wow, this has an immense budget. Like, just
That
massive.
1 minute, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, oh, they threw a lot into this. But that's not it at all. It was just, they made a movie. I guess the movie wasn't released or something, and they...
It was released, so it's called The Gray Owl Movie, starring Pierce Brosnan. People
Yeah.
can go watch it. I don't think it was particularly well received.
No.
That being said, I
Shocker.
believe that the CRB Foundation helped to fund
Fund
it.
it.
And so they had some kind of like partial claim to it, and they were able to edit it down and use it on public broadcast.
Oh, wow.
Right.
In these heritage minutes, like these 1 minute clips, which, like Reese mentioned, this heritage minute is particularly chaotic. It has
Yes.
multiple sets. There's a bunch of characters that they introduce you to.
Yeah.
You have actors speaking in particular accents that make it so difficult to understand what they're saying. Like,
Yeah.
there's a man on the dock who, like, yells at him saying that he knows he's not a First Nations and says the infamous line, "If he's a Red Indian, then I'm the king of China."
But the accent that he
brilliant.
uses it's like,
It's a very thick Scottish accent.
well, it's like
Right.
slightly Scottish, but also a little bit mid-Atlantic. Like, it's like he can't quite make up what kind of accent that he's using.
That guy
I
was
think-
really using his screen time. He was like, I'm
Yeah.
going to make the most of this line.
Yeah, I think this is my big shot. I think it was a Canadian actor doing what he thinks a Scottish person
Yeah,
sounds like.
definitely.
Okay. Okay.
That makes more. So I am curious because I don't know anything about the story of oh my god, what is it? Red Owl? No.
Grey
Grey
Owl.
Grey Owl.
is
I do.
Well-
his pseudonym.
It was a mute British person.
Who looked a lot like Pierce Brosnan.
I was going to say, Jesse, you are in luck because that is the premise of our podcast.
Oh, yay.
Grace is going to educate us on the infamous Grey Owl.
Educate us,
Infamous,
Grace.
famous?
Yeah,
More
I think
infamous?
infamous is the
Okay.
right word. He's actually very important to Canada's development of a national park system.
What?
So he's,
Yeah.
for a long time, and at this point in time, he's kind of remembered for his conservation efforts because he was a huge promoter of like protecting the forests and protecting wildlife before that was kind of mainstream. That being said, he was also an Englishman pretending to be an Ojibwe man
Yeah.
for most of his life. He wrote and published books under the name Grey Owl, and he toured the world pretending to be First Nations.
Yeah.
Why?
And it wasn't revealed until after his death that he wasn't.
Which, like, isn't cool.
Which
I,
we don't promote today.
we don't suggest that. No, and that's kind of the premise of the...
Minute Women does not
Yeah.
condone
So
pretending
that,
to be a different race.
yeah, so that was kind of that moment where they're... he's in with the chiefs and they're having that moment where they're like laughing at him because they're like, you're just a little white boy, but like thank you for helping get information
Yeah.
out about
So he did
First
it to
Nations
help.
people.
He did have a genuine sense that
Yeah.
like conservation is good, but also that scene where the chiefs are like, yeah, it's like you are what you dream you are. Like
Wink,
that,
wink.
That's totally a fabrication. It
cheek
never
and tongue,
happened.
yeah.
was that just written for the film?
That was
to
just written for the
make you
film.
like his character more.
Yeah, it's definitely to be like, see, they said it was okay,
These,
so it's fine.
these actors we paid to say it was okay said it was.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like, so did he represent Indigenous people in an honourable way, despite the fact it's wrong? He was pretending to do it, or was it an act? Was it like a stage show or something, or how did he do it?
So what I knew about Grey Owl going into this, because I had learned about him in a Canadian history class, is that he helped to form national parks. He promoted conservation before it was mainstream, and he was a huge drunk. So,
Yes.
like,
Wow.
those
Why
are
didn't
the
they have
things-
that in the Heritage Minute?
Welcome
Like,
to Canadian history, folks. They were all drunk.
raging
Perhaps-
alcoholic.
Perhaps that's why he didn't talk, because he was
Right.
holding
Just
the
Just
vomit down.
plastered.
Just thanks for telling me that. It's great. Like, yes, cheers. Yeah,
Circle Parks.
Have you ever considered that the trees are our friends?
they're all our friends. They're buddies. I like hugging trees.
I love beavers.
Beavers are great.
Beavers are great.
It's just the best.
How I'm really intrigued. Like, I'm sure he's from like a really boring part of the UK.
Well, I mean, let's find out. Shall
Yeah,
we
yeah,
dive
let's do
into
it.
his whole life
Yeah, yeah,
story?
yeah.
Don't steal her thunder.
No, no, no. I'm
This is
excited.
No, absolutely not. That was a perfect segue.
Yeah.
Perfect segue. You can tell me if this is a boring part of England. Okay.
If you have any quotes directly from him, can you read them as in a drunkest voice possible?
Oh, she definitely will. This is how we do. This is how we do it here.
Great.
Minute Women podcast is like part history, part me really trying to do accents
Yeah.
and
Excellent.
renownedly failing every
Yeah.
single
I'm
time.
very happy to hear this. This is
All right. So his real name is Archie Belaney, which they do
Archie.
briefly say in the episode. But Archie Belaney was born on September 18th, 1888. He was raised by his two aunts, Janie and Julia, in the town of Hastings on the English Channel. Is that a boring part of England?
Yeah, I suppose no, it's a pretty part of England, but it's kind of like a seaside. No, Hastings is just off the coast, pretty quiet country village.
Quiet, remote.
Yeah,
Okay.
Church, probably like people riding bikes, red phone boxes, that
Children
kind of thing.
being raised by their aunts.
Yeah, children.
You know.
Everyone's being raised by their aunts.
Everyone in the town of Hastings is raised by their aunts.
I just don't. Yeah, certainly nothing like the kind of world he was pretending to be part of. It's freshly baked bread, that kind of thing.
Pies in the window.
Steam engines,
Yeah.
Not a lot of wild hunts on the
No,
plains.
no buffalo.
No
That's unfortunate.
So in regards to his background, Archie's grandparents were both Scottish. His grandfather was a Scottish-born merchant and shipbroker, and they come from a pretty wealthy socialite family from Yorkshire. And they only had one son. So Archie's father is the only son of this pretty wealthy family. Archie's father's name was George, and he was endowed with all the lavish attention and revenue of his mother after the death of his father, and he received an expensive education. With his mother's help, he began a business in London in tea and coffee that soon failed, and then,
If
you can fail selling tea.
Right.
it's like, how did you mess this up?
It's like Trump with his casinos.
Well,
It's a
and
money
I was going to
printing
say,
machine.
they're in England. How do you screw up selling tea in England?
Yeah, exactly. It's
imagine
like
they're
you have
very
the
picky.
best market for that product. So after his business fails, he decides that he's going to go on a really costly big game expedition to South Africa.
Okay.
Okay.
As a rich
As
white
you do.
guy does.
Right, yeah. You fail at selling tea, you go hunt things to make
just
yourself feel better.
To feel better, yeah.
Yeah.
I really need to fill the void that tea left in my life.
That was
I think I need to kill a lion.
that's like a Victorian gap year.
Mom, I'll be back in a year. I really just need to find myself.
And some elephant tusks.
Some elephant tusks. Expect ivory.
Oh, goody, a new keyboard for the piano.
Oh my God.
Ebony and Ivory, that's my son. Upon his return, he departed for the United States quite quickly to invest in an orange grove plantation. So
What?
tea and coffee doesn't work out. So he's going to be like, you know what the next big thing is? Oranges. Citrus. Big citrus.
Big citrus guy.
Wow, was this like California or?
So it's Florida. So
Oh, that
he's-
makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So he's going to Florida. His investment fails again.
Of course.
Because up till this point, we have no evidence that he's actually a good businessman.
So I'm sensing why he might have eventually become a drunk. Just
So this is just his
So this is just his dad.
This is just
This
our
is his
So,
dad.
Archie might have become
really?
a drunk because of the daddy issues, but it's
Oh, wow.
daddy who can't keep a business
I totally
afloat.
missed that. I missed that.
Yeah.
That it was about. I thought this was Archie. I'm like,
No.
Archie's led a full life.
No.
Oh,
I
this
do
is
love
Archie's
the
dad.
idea of
Okay.
transitioning from big game hunter to conservationist.
Right, yeah. Exactly.
Maybe the conservationist thing is just a rejection of his father. He's
Yeah.
like, I'm not my dad. And so he's like, I'm going to save trees.
This is the second time we've talked about a famous person's father being an unsuccessful merchant.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
John A. McDonald's
John A.
father.
McDonald.
Oh, trust
unsuccessful
us. We
merchant.
know. Do you know about his brother?
John A. McDonald's brother.
Oh, go listen to
Brutally
episode
murdered.
1.
Ronald.
I don't know his name. Oh, that's a joke.
The successful restaurateur. Sorry, there's a terrible joke.
Oh, that's the British humor I've heard about.
It's too dry, too dry.
Oh, there's nothing better than someone pointing out the fact that you just made a joke and then saying it's funny.
That was funny.
That has humor. I recognize humor.
Please,
Yeah, I'm aware of it.
please email Canadian Politics
Yeah, yeah,
is
yeah.
boring if you think
found
that
that.
Reese's joke was funny.
We'll get Jesse had one. We'll get more.
So yes, John A. McDonald has a failing father, and
And so does Archie.
So does Archie.
Archie's not even born yet, and his dad's doing all this stuff.
He's
Right.
adventurous though.
He is adventurous. I'll
Yeah,
give him
he's
that.
not afraid
Yeah.
of finding a new country to fail in.
He's one of those like rich kid entrepreneurs who's got
Yeah.
the money just to keep
So industrious.
Exactly. If he was alive today, he'd have a big Instagram following and would have founded like 3 failed apps.
Hey guys, just bought another orange plantation. I'm about to start a live stream.
So I want to know what happened with his orange plantation. Is it a plantation? An orange plantation?
It's called an orange grove plantation, and the investment fails again. Okay. So George goes back to Britain, this time with his wife. So he marries a woman in Florida.
An American.
I don't know if she was American or if she just happened to be in America.
She just happened to be around.
Her name is Kitty.
Oh.
And
That's a cute name.
she was pregnant, and she was half his age.
She
which is
was pregnant when he met her?
No, I think he got her
Okay.
pregnant.
Okay, that's a big difference.
Yeah, that's a very big difference. You did not word that correctly.
And she's half his age by the time they go back.
Of course she is.
I mean, that's pretty standard for
Yeah.
the 1800s.
Rich boys starting orange plantations. So
They
Kitty,
are boring places to be, man. You've got to pass the time. So,
Knocking down oranges, knocking up girls.
there you
Could have
go.
been a slogan.
Should have been.
Maybe that's
Hey
one of his
mom, I'm
slogan.
back, and I brought this broad with me. She's half my age, and I knocked her up. Are
Did you
proud?
bring anything?
Up top,
I
Mom.
hope you like oranges.
You don't have a choice. So Kitty gave birth to Archie soon after they arrived in Hastings, where Julia and her 2 unmarried daughters had recently moved from London. So those are his aunts. They'd recently moved there from London.
So many aunts.
So
Yes.
many aunts.
So many aunts. By this time, George's alcoholism had sharply reduced the family's fortune. So daddy's a drunk, too. You know,
Great.
as you do.
As
He still
As you do.
refused to settle down. So he's still just like, I got to make my money somewhere. I've got to go. I got to kick the dust of this criminal town off my feet.
Do it. Don't start another business.
And 2 years later, he abandoned Kitty, who had just born their second son.
Oh.
oh,
George would eventually travel to North America, where he apparently died around 1910, but we don't know the circumstances
oh
of his
no!
death.
she just went to North America and died.
Dad just went and died, yeah.
Just like took one step off the boat and just
I
face
have,
planted.
I have my ticket
Yeah.
for the steamship. I won't be back.
A fortune teller told me my death will occur as soon as I get off.
Don't
He's
stay
like,
up.
George, when are you going to be back? No, bye. No, bye.
Is that like lost in the sands of time?
It's just kind of like the exact time and circumstances are just kind of unknown, yeah.
You could make it up and we'd believe you.
How do I want him to die?
There you go.
Probably like a buffalo killed him or something.
Right.
He's like, this
as
is
soon
for
as he
my
stepped
brother.
off the steamship. Like, just
Yeah.
As soon as he steps off onto the pier of Halifax, a buffalo ran over him. Freak accident.
yeah. From his new
When did you say
founded
he?
Buffalo company
When did you
that
say
was
he
trying
got
to start,
to
yeah.
Halifax, or he didn't come to Halifax?
So it's like
Just say could have been the explosion. You could really tie this all in.
yeah, I could really tie it up.
Didn't he
dies
die in
Halifax
1910?
explosion. He dies in 1910.
Yeah.
So that's
well,
a good
we don't-
7 years early.
We're early.
Yeah, I can't give you more answers. I apologize.
a pretty big
I'm
explosion.
failing at my job.
The explosion that
someone in
killed
the
people
past.
in the past. Yeah. It traveled through time.
If you go fast. Exactly.
That is so going to be the plot of some like smut book written in Halifax. It's like the Halifax explosion blows someone through time. That's how big the explosion was, and then they fall in love in the future. It's just like really trying to like take advantage of the outer land like market.
I'm still stuck on blows you through time. It's
Yeah,
like a
because
new
you said a
time
smut
traveler's
novel,
wife.
and I was
Yeah.
like, "What? Hold on, that's got some real dirty connotations there."
Eyebrows.
Blow me through time, baby. My mom's definitely not listening to this one.
I've straight up asked my mother to not listen to specific podcasts, and she ignores me.
My parents listen to every episode, and every time there's
mine
like,
too.
you know, they love it mostly.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay.
They don't like when I call them out, though. I'll call them out on stuff, and he's like, my dad's like, I feel betrayed. How dare you tell them my secrets?
Big shout out to Mitch McNutt.
Mitch McNutt, my father. Hello.
Hello, Mitch.
He's a great guy.
Great
Oh, he's
guy.
such a great
So
guy.
I'm
Much
told.
better than Archie's dad.
Yes.
Very present in my life.
Has he ever owned an orange plantation?
Not that I'm aware of. No, he grew up near Truro. I don't think they grow oranges there.
I don't think so.
Anyways, so after their ne'er-do-well brother is gone, so they don't know what happened to him, Ada and Carrie had intervened and taken Archie with them. So the aunts, they're like,
From his mom?
So yeah, it's so the mom has 3 kids, or
Okay.
that we know of, and these 2 sisters are like, we'll take care of our brother's son, I guess.
Where did Kitty go?
Oh yeah.
Who's to say? I guess she's just like,
She's just like, we're sorry, Kitty. We've decided you're not good enough for your own children.
my logical guess would be that as an abandoned single mother with 2 children, she may have only been able to take care of one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Not to
that's
bring
fair.
down the tone of the podcast.
Yeah.
But that would be my guess. Or she's just a terrible person.
Yeah.
Who's to say?
I like going with the terrible person route. That's always fun.
Let's do it.
Makes me feel less bad about what I said. Let's do that.
I'm just here to guilt trip you.
Exactly. She was an awful mother. And that's it.
That's your entire Wikipedia page. Yeah, it's just,
Reese looked up one thing in advance of this episode.
I know for a fact that
I know for a fact that his mom was a bitch. So Ada ran a very strict household. She taught Archie first at home, so like homeschooling, instilling him with a lifelong love of literature and music. The stern, formal woman stressed obedience and excellence, just as she did with the collies that she bred.
okay.
So that's always a good comparison.
wow.
I'll raise this boy like a dog, and then everything will be fine.
The
Everything
dogs
will be
turned
okay.
out fine.
That's amazing.
He's really learning to sit very well.
She takes him for walks every day.
You can jump through a hoop.
Archie raises his leg to pee. He's like, what?
It's all I know.
Clean up after your child.
After 3 years in a small church school, Archie entered the Hastings Grammar School at the age of 11 in 1899. Even as a young boy, his passions were of North American indigenous peoples and wildlife. Ada, to her credit, understood the importance of the natural world to him and allowed him to keep his rabbits, snakes, and mice on the top floor of their home.
How kind.
What a generous aunt.
She filled his water dish every day.
So he was in the attic.
So that's where he keeps his little menagerie.
This has got to be in the film, like a little boy in the attic with his animals.
Right?
When I heard that he was raised by his 2 haunts, I could only picture James and the Giant Peach.
Yeah.
Of like
I
this.
haven't actually seen that or read it.
The movie is excellent.
Yeah,
the
yeah,
book
yeah.
is also very sweet. So with his books on indigenous peoples, his menagerie, and his solitary walks to look for plants and animals, the lonely boy lived in a dream world of his own making. Creatively, he invented 2 fictional parents. To explain the absence of his parents, he developed the story that his father was a Western plainsman and his mother was a Native American. So
wow.
even as a young child, he's like, I am indigenous and my parents are indigenous.
So it's kind of
And
like,
that's why they're not here.
do you know, I got a lot more sympathy knowing that it wasn't like a cynical thing where he's like, there's a gap in the market here. He's like in his 20s going, hey, there's a gap in the market.
No, yeah.
You know, there's an act that no one's doing that I could do. This
He
is like,
definitely has a genuine interest in their culture.
Yeah.
It's just like taking it really, really far.
and it's like a coping mechanism. He's creating a reality that he can deal with, that
Yeah.
helps him
Right.
deal with the situation he's in, and that's where. And then one thing leads to another, and before you know it, you're living a life that
You're
is
living
a
a
lie.
lie.
Now that begs the question: did he start to believe his own lie? Like,
Yeah, he might genuinely have believed it at that
right?
point.
And it's probably also just the sense of like, well, I'm doing everything that they do, so that's good enough. Like, who can tell me otherwise?
Also, I do worry about if he was reading books at the time, like that were maybe sociology books or whatever, about like my dad had these textbooks from when he was a kid, and I think they were printed in the 50s. And even then, like the racism that was in those kind of books about other cultures.
Oh yeah,
Oh.
this is
Oh.
like early eugenics times.
Yeah,
This is
ex-
like,
exactly.
This
So-
is like near turn of the century. So I'm sure the books he was reading, a lot of them. So indigenous peoples appear a lot in like exotic travel magazines and like exotic travel books.
Oh,
Yeah.
right, of course.
So Archie's in school and he's good at English and he's good at religious studies, but he like sucks at everything else. He's like not good at math or anything, which
Okay.
we can relate to.
yeah.
Yes, this is not a
This
math
is not a
podcast.
math podcast.
Thank God.
And then so Ada's like, okay, because you suck at school, you're allowed to not go.
Oh,
He's like,
Wow.
you're bad at it.
Please
so
tell me
you
this
don't
is
have to go
verbatim.
anymore.
This
This is an exact. Oh, love, you don't have to go to school no more. Was that good?
You could just stay home and be stupid.
okay.
Just play with your mice.
Get back in your box.
So at 15, he started starts working in a lumber yard. So he continues to love North American indigenous cultures, and he grew so infatuated that he decides that he's just going to up and move to Canada and live with them in the forest.
Fucking right.
He decides that independently without contacting anybody.
So he quits his job at the lumber yard.
Yeah, he goes, bye, I'm not going to cut down trees anymore.
It's like a little Chris McCandless, Alexander Supertramp, Into the Wild. Come on, somebody.
I know Into the Wild. I haven't
Oh,
seen it.
yeah,
So
no, I hated
Does he
that
die in a
movie.
bus?
Do we not read?
He pretty much dies on a bus. Yeah,
I know
He
it's
eats
a book
nothing but
too,
rabbits.
but
Yeah,
the
it's-
movie is particularly frustrating.
The movie is exceptionally well. Actually, anyway,
The whole premise.
the whole premise of the book and the movie are just trash.
so I'm gonna go live in the forest.
I'm John Krakauer. Like, write your own stories about your own experiences. Oh wait, you did. In
We're
the Thin
calling
Air.
you out.
See how that went.
You've
Yeah,
lost me.
Krakauer.
I'm lost as well.
I'm lost.
Yeah.
It's
fine.
okay.
This is for Krakauer. He knows us.
Yeah.
Krakauer?
We have beef.
Is there a podcast called Crack Hour?
There should be.
We're being a
This week on
little. We're
Krakauer.
being a little facetious. John Krakauer wrote Into the Wild.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But he should have a podcast, and it should be called Krakauer.
What's new in crack this week?
What's the crack? So he's 17 years old. He's sailing to North America. He sails to Halifax, and he arrives in March of 1906.
Oh, not
blast-
1778.
I hope the
No.
explosion doesn't kill him a few years earlier.
Flown through time. And from there he moves to Toronto. So he's off to a great start for living in the forest. He's
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna go to
Yeah, the two
the
biggest
two
metro-
cities.
Yeah, the only two cities.
Halifax, Toronto. I'm really living it.
Camped out in the public gardens in Halifax.
Under a tree. He's like, I've been living in a gazebo for months. So he's in Toronto and he's working there to save money to continue his northern journey.
Okay.
He then takes a train to Quebec, and then he's like near the Ottawa River. And then a few months later, he goes further west to Lake Tamagami, which was the home of a small Ojibwe community, which were the Teme, Agama, and Anishinaabe. Doing my best.
Great job, Grace.
Bravo.
Also
That's
known as the
probably better than I
Deepwater
do.
people.
The Deepwater people.
The
much
Deepwater
easier.
people.
The Deepwater people. So John Egwana and his family welcomed the curious young Englishman into their home. So they're like,
Oh.
this white dude showed up at our doorstep, so we'll take him into our house.
If we don't let him in and feed him, he might die. I imagine it was like,
If he dies, that'll be so much more trouble for us.
Yeah.
So we better feed him.
Like, we have to keep him alive.
So John had a niece named Angèle, and she taught Archie their language and gave him lessons in canoeing and trapping. And in 1910, he married Angèle in a Christian ceremony.
Of course he did.
But only a year later, he behaved exactly like his father had and abandoned her
Oh, wow.
with their infant daughter, Agnes,
Wow.
He just bailed.
right off the bat.
Wow. Archie sucks.
I'm glad you find this as funny as you do.
I mean, it's just like, patterns.
Like father, like son.
I imagine though that if he cynically maybe he was like, I just need to learn enough so I can get out and then tour the world authentically.
I don't even know what he
He
was
needed
thinking.
to learn how to, like, bang a lady on the reservation to be able to, like, move on with his life. He had to father a child.
It's an important step in growing into a man.
Yeah, to be a man is to get married and abandon your
Me-
new wife
Yeah.
and the baby.
And the baby, yeah.
So glad I'm just a woman.
Just to play
Sounds
devil.
really hard.
I want to play devil's advocate though for Archie because maybe he just forgotten to feed his pets in the attic and he remembered 5 years later.
Oh my God, the mice.
This epic battle between mice and a snake going on in an attic for years.
Somewhere.
Snake at my aunt.
They go back and it's just like Ada goes upstairs and she's like, the snakes run the house now. It's their house now.
Exactly.
So in the spring of 1912, Archie appeared in the tiny lumbering town of Biscotasing, also known as Bisco, some 100 miles west of Tamagami on the Canadian Pacific Railway between Sudbury and Chapleau.
Okay.
He's popping up. In the village, he became well known for his skill with knife throwing,
Oh.
his expert piano playing
What?
at dances,
Hold on, what?
and his heavy drinking.
He's, Wait a second. Hold on.
Item number
So-
1, knife throwing.
Knife throwing.
Item number
2,
two.
expert piano playing.
Number
Item number
three.
3, heavy drinking.
So I just like that you stated he was well known for this.
This is what he's known for.
Archie. Oh yeah, Archie. No, he's great. Did you see him? His knife throwing, his piano playing is amazing. And my God, can that man drink?
Yeah.
You should see him when he does all three at the same time.
I was gonna say, welcome to rural parts of Canada where those are 3 excellent traits to have.
Right? He downs a gallon of rum and then he plays the piano by throwing knives at the keys. Yeah.
Imagine that dating profile. It's just like, I'm good at knife throwing, piano playing, and I drink a lot.
I can drink you under the table.
I can drink you under the table. I'll go anywhere as long as you buy the first round. So to support himself and his bustling hobbies, he worked in the summer as a forest ranger and a guide, and then he trapped during the winter.
Okay.
By this point, he had lost his English accent, and if asked, he would repeat his well-polished tale that he was the son of a Scots frontierman and an Apache woman. So now he has like a new background story.
Right.
He's crafted his own origin story like a superhero.
Multiple times,
Yep.
though.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
he can't commit.
Oh, yeah.
Having left his
I mean, we've
legal...
already seen that with his wife and child. So
Speaking of her, having left his legal wife, he entered into a relationship with Marie Girard. Oh, no, we got French names on the go.
let me see.
Gerard.
I think it's pronounced Gerard.
Potentially, yes.
I don't know idea. I can email my friend.
I would
Our
say
connection.
Gerard.
Probably. Marie Girard, who was a Métis woman in Bisco.
Wife number 2 of. I'm going to say that there's many wives.
You've got good instincts,
Oh,
kid.
do I? Okay, good.
This podcast.
Serial Maria.
His piano playing's amazing. His knife throwing's off the chart. And look at his amount of wives. It's amazing.
Wife collector.
Wife collector. Wife collector. Oh, my God.
So they didn't get
what I'm
married,
going
but
against
they
for
were in a
Halloween.
serious relationship. They did wind up separating early in the winter of 1914-15 when he apparently did not know that she was pregnant. So he gets her
Oh,
pregnant
my God.
and
Right.
leaves.
Yeah, he did not know. I bet he didn't.
She,
Classic.
She
It is
dies
hard
of
to tell.
tuberculosis.
She died of tuberculosis?
Shortly after giving birth to their son, John, in the fall of 1915.
Yeah, we've talked about tuberculosis a couple times. My great grandpa had tuberculosis.
TB. It'll
It was
get
very
you.
fashionable at the time.
Oh, yeah. You'd look great if you had TB. It's like,
Yeah.
it's true.
Well,
You
you'd be
look
very
great.
thin and you'd be
The, like-
very, yeah.
the
Very, like, dewy
Victorian
and
sense
thin.
of beauty is like to be super pale, and
Yeah.
so they like it
Ah.
was fashionable.
Did they have TB parties to like?
I hope my kids get it. Your kids
One
got
less
TB?
mouth to feed,
Bring them
yeah.
round. Bring them round.
Yeah, cough on my kid, cough on my kid. It's like my 3rd birthday party. I had the chicken pox, and my mom invited all the kids in town who hadn't had it yet.
Oh, my God.
She was like,
What a
"Oh,
fun party.
Mitchell hasn't had chicken pox. Bring him down. Bring him down."
My God.
Cough on my chubby child.
My chubby, not pale child, not pale enough child.
Rosy-cheeked child.
He looks way too healthy.
Exactly.
So Canada had entered the First World War in early August 1914, and Archie had enlisted, but not immediately and not in Northern Ontario. Instead, he signed up the following May in Digby, Nova Scotia.
Oh,
He
he's
came
back
back.
in
This
Disney.
man just pops up because he'll just like sign up for like some kind of legal document, and you're like, oh, I guess he's here now. He's just a
Yeah.
drifter.
In Digby.
Digby, Nova Scotia.
Digby,
I mean, it's
Nova
the place
Scotia.
to be in 1914. It's,
Yeah.
It rhymes, so it must be true.
I don't think Digby,
what I
Nova
say.
Scotia has ever been the place to be.
It is if you like
How dare you?
scallops. Just scallops.
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 Yeah, thank
I
you
fucking hate
for
scallops
correcting
so
yourself.
goddamn much. Oh, my God. The devil food.
The devil
How
food.
dare you?
Oh, ugh. I have a hard time pronouncing it. It's just
Scallops.
stop it.
Jesse is visibly uncomfortable.
I hate the food so much. It's like I would.
Why?
If I could punch a scallop, I would. It's just.
You can.
Can.
I can't. No one's
Go
stopping
buy
me.
one.
Do you want? If I had known,
I
I
suppose
would
I
have.
could. Kid,
It's not
I
an
would have
imaginary
brought some
concept.
scallops
For
for
me
you
to
to
punch.
punch. Yeah.
Jesse's skills, podcasting,
Scallop
punching
punching.
scallops.
Only and specifically
Excessive
scallops.
drinking.
Heavy drinker.
If only those scallops weren't hypothetical, then I could punch them.
We had one reviewer say that he hated our podcast so much he wanted to punch it.
Oh yeah, you posted that.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, we read it.
I like that idea though.
Yeah,
Punching a podcast
what was
in
our
its face.
podcast called?
Our podcast called?
Yeah,
I think it's called Minute Women.
No, what did that lady say that our podcast was? A useless.
Oh yeah.
Of the
it was like a
ether?
profound waste of space. Yeah.
A profound waste of space on the ether.
in the ether.
Wow.
Yeah.
In the ether,
That's
yeah.
poetic.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
We had one just dumb and bad. So really eloquent.
You want to make a T-shirt?
Oh, I
of
left
that.
that one. That was me. Sorry. I was going to email it in, but... So he's signing up for the First World War because, he's
good.
clearly been making good decisions up until this point.
Right.
Well, I heard on the front they really need knife throwers and piano players.
His first military order was to get his hair cut.
Oh.
His
Oh,
hair at
right,
this point
yeah.
hung down to his shoulders. When asked upon his enlistment if he had had any previous military experience, he said he had in Mexican Scouts 28th Dragoons, which I'm pretty sure is a lie because he has no military experience
Okay.
until
Right.
this
Had he
point.
even been to Mexico?
I don't know.
Although
I
up
hope
to
not.
this point, he's developed skills out of the blue, apparently, right? Like
For
it's
knife
He's
throwing.
chained in an attic for the most of his childhood, and then suddenly he's a knife throwing piano player, an expert drinker. I don't think he learned all that in his attic.
Crazy things happen in the woods. You never know when you're just going to stumble across a baby grand.
Yeah, he saves up all this money to pay his entrance fee into the woods. He goes into the woods where there is just a pile of knives and a piano.
And a piano.
Yeah, and that's where he spends a good portion of his. Yeah,
Oh my God.
this is why I wasn't a history teacher.
This is the only reason.
The only reason
It's the only thing standing
They
in his
failed
way.
the criminal check.
because I punched too many scallops.
And the drinking.
Exactly.
At the front, Archie was an excellent shot, served as sniper, and he did this until he had a serious injury in his right foot, which took him out of the war in April 1916.
What a little
Please- please-
pansy.
please
Lost
tell
a
me-
toe, I bet.
Now, when I hear foot injury,
Did he drop a knife?
Or a
well,
piano.
I think you shoot yourself in the foot.
That's what I'd
Whenever
assume.
there's a serious foot injury, it's always some dude shooting themselves in the foot.
However, maybe they realized that he was flat-footed or something because my uncle wasn't allowed, or my grandfather wasn't allowed in the Navy because he was flat-footed. He
Wow,
couldn't
really?
march. Oh yeah, that was a way people got out of going to war. If you were
Or-
flat-footed.
But he was super bummed about it.
Or
yeah,
it could have
super bummed.
It could have been trench foot.
Potentially trench foot. It says it says a serious injury. Trench foot is also up there, I guess.
It's like athlete's foot, but worse.
But way worse.
Yeah.
So he's hospitalized in England, and by chance, he spent some time at a military hospital in Hastings. He got in touch with his two aunts. They, in turn, contacted Ivy Holmes, the daughter of a good friend of theirs and a boyhood acquaintance of Archie's. Ivy was an attractive, outgoing woman who had become a professional dancer. She and her troupe had performed throughout Europe before the war. With his aunt and Ivy, Archie reverted to his English accent, did not drink, and, of course, made no reference to his marriage in Tamagami.
Oh my god.
Is
Or
there
his
and
or his
two children?
Yeah.
And 2 children. 3 children, I think. No, 2.
Two.
I lost count.
So
did he.
He just instantly snapped back to being British. He's like, oh, blimey, I've had a funny feeling.
I wasn't in the woods, I swear. Stop talking about knife throwing.
Mind the
no one
gap.
talked about knife. How's the queen doing? Or I guess king at this point.
Yeah.
How's the king doing?
How is that old bugger?
So Ivy enjoys Archie's company. He's a wonderful storyteller, and they fall in love. And with his aunt's
Something Archie
blessing-
does frequently.
Yeah, with his aunt's blessing, they get married in February of 1917. Ivy accepted Archie's plan of a life together in the Canadian forest, and the couple decided that Archie would go ahead,
What
and
a
then
gal.
she would follow him to the New World. Because while the war is going on, wives are not allowed to travel with
Oh,
soldiers.
interesting.
Yeah, so they have to wait until the war is over.
They could have sex or something.
Who's to say?
Heaven forbid.
Heaven forbid. So he sails on the 19th of September, 1917, and Ivy never saw him again.
Oh my god.
Did he
right.
say, I'll send you a map
I'm shocked.
where to find me?
Please tell me she was pregnant.
I don't think she's pregnant. So
Is this wife number 3 or 4? 4.
This is wife number 2.
This is
but-
official wife number 2.
Official wife number 2. The other one wasn't.
But he got some lady pregnant, and then she died of TB.
Serious relationship number 3.
Serious relationship number 3 for Archie.
Yeah.
Instead, Archie returned to Bisco. He was overwhelmed by the horrors of war. He had witnessed inconceivable slaughter at the front, and his injury, which he never fully recovered from, was a constant reminder of the conflict. Following his return from service in the First World War, Archie's use of alcohol increased, and it was not unusual for him to appear drunk in public, which is such a low bar. Alcoholism is like he was drunk in public sometimes.
Wow. Just walking around
Just out
in the daylight.
in the daytime.
Daylight.
In the the light of God and the community.
On a Sunday.
Sunday, for that matter. Moreover, his personal life was still a total mess. He made no call to Ivy to join him in Canada, and he finally told her about his previous marriage. She obtained a divorce in 1922
Go, girl, get it.
on the grounds of bigamy.
Yeah.
Although he had visited Angèle shortly after his return to Canada in 1917, he soon decided to not remain with her. So that's the first wife. He goes back and visits her.
Of course.
In Bisco, he learned about his son, John Girard, who came home from Chapleau Indian Residential School in the summer. The boy did not know who his father was, however. So this is like the first time he's ever meeting his
Awkward.
Yeah. I've just been at a residential school, and now I'm meeting the dad that was never around.
Yeah.
It's like, that's the worst year.
Yeah.
Just
The
fun
worst
times
summer.
all around. Yeah.
Mrs. Edith Langevin, a native woman who was John's guardian, did not tell him until Archie had moved away. So he's like meeting Archie, but no one's telling him that that's his dad.
Archie's probably wasted it and like, hey, I'm your dad. And the kid's like, okay.
Yeah, sure. But also he's like pulling any kid. He's like, hey, I'm your dad. Any kid he finds.
We just want to introduce you to this man. Why? Oh, no reason.
Just to show you a bad influence.
Exactly.
Just to show that you dodged a bullet, kid. So the only thing that kept Archie together during this time was his friendship with the Espagnols, an Ojibwe family.
And alcohol.
I don't know if that's keeping him together or promoting the opposite, but, you know. He stayed with them, he perfected the Ojibwe language, and he learned more about their way of life. He was finally doing what he had set out to do at the age of 17.
He perfected the Ojibwe language?
He's perfecting their language, yeah.
Like his use of it or their language? Like
Their language,
He
yeah.
perfected.
So he's learning to speak it fluently.
She's saying that he perfected, like,
He-
he's
yeah.
using it. Like, if I
Yeah.
perfected French, it would be like I'm perfecting my usage of French.
Right,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
the language itself.
He's not changing it, yeah.
Okay.
That would be a very British thing to do.
He's like, so I've listened to your proposal, and I have a few recommendations. Let's just work from the ground up. So he's gaining a new appreciation for the northern forest, but Archie isn't like a brand new man. In 1925, Archie left Bisco and returned to Lake Tamagi to Angèle. She had last seen him 2 years earlier when she was quite ill. He bailed. He bails on her when she's quite ill.
He was like, see ya.
Bye. It's like, I don't know if I can deal with this right now. I've got a lot on my plate.
No, you promised whenever you quoted him.
I got a lot on my plate.
I got a lot on my plate, love.
I've seen the horrors of war.
It's like Johnny Depp as Jack
Yeah, I was
Sparrow.
going to say, it's like Jack Sparrow.
That's how I'm
Oh
picturing
my gosh,
him.
yes.
He just
That's
like
what they
walks
should have
around.
cast.
Oh my God, that
Get
would've
Pierce
been
Brosnan
amazing.
out of here. We need
But not just Johnny Depp as Jack Sparrow.
As Jack Sparrow.
Like, I want
as Grey Owl.
I want Jack Sparrow as Grey Owl.
Well, that would be who was he mimicking when he was Jack Sparrow? Keith Richards?
Yeah,
Keith
from-
Richards,
So it's-
yeah.
And
it's-
it was two, actually. It was Keith Richards combined with Pepe Le Pew. It's true.
So it's Johnny Depp as Keith Richards combined with Pepe Le Pew as Jack Sparrow as Grey
I
Owl.
want to take...
As Archie Belaney as Grey Owl.
I could probably
hilarious.
do this. I want to take the Heritage Minute of Grey Owl and replace Brosnan with... Not Johnny Depp, but with
Jack Sparrow.
He doesn't have to say anything because he doesn't say anything. He just
So it's Jack Sparrow being like,
Bobs and weaves.
Bobbing.
Bobbing and weaving.
You just do one of those deep fakes.
For those of you listening,
Yeah.
for those of you listening who can't see, we are all doing our best Jack Sparrow walk right now.
You should go back through all the
Where's the
Heritage
rum?
minutes, doing deep fakes, replacing the faces.
Oh,
That's funny.
with our ideal cast.
Yeah.
All with Jack Sparrow. Yeah.
That's the ideal cast.
I need these baskets back.
Imagine Laura Secord running through the woods. It's just Jack Sparrow.
Do you smell burnt toast, love?
Hey, both of you, I can't read words.
Is this normal?
These are horrible Jack Sparrow impressions.
Please email the Minute Women podcast to tell us how terrible our Jack Sparrow impressions are.
All right, so moving on.
So, yeah, he goes back to see Angel. He doesn't stay long, but she does give birth to their second child, Flora,
So
in
he
1926.
His third child.
knocks her up.
So he stuck around just long enough.
So he now
11
has
months.
3 kids.
And she fell for him again.
Yes.
Oh, God.
I know, it's kind of
Fell
sad.
into bed.
Womp womp.
Girls gotta eat.
I'm so sorry, Angel.
And he looks just like Johnny Depp, so like who can blame
Yeah.
her really?
Right.
She's only human.
Uncanny. Yeah.
So a chance meeting in the late summer of 1925 with Gertrude Bernard led Archie to propose that they spend a winter trapping together in the Abitibi region of Quebec. So Gertrude was of Algonquin and Mohawk descent. She grew up a strongly independent young woman and was described by some as a tomboy. Her friends nicknamed her Pony. Ooh. So now it's Jack Sparrow and like Pony Boy from,
Pony girl.
from the outside.
Stay silver.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Because women are less than men.
Womp womp.
That's not where I was taking that, but okay.
Oh, and she's 19. And Archie's 37 at this point in the story.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
Literally double her age.
Yes.
Yes.
So this,
Look,
though,
this guy knows math.
Yeah. Well,
that was pretty quick.
no,
Yeah,
it wasn't actually literally double. It was almost.
Almost
quite.
literally.
I don't do maths, as I would
Well,
say.
not to worry because
I
this
only
is
know
not,
one math.
Yeah,
And it's bad.
It's bad.
See, my kids say math now because we moved to Canada.
yeah.
And I go, yeah, maths. And sometimes they'll say math and I just go,
Well, not to worry. This is not a maths podcast. So
Reese is just really inspired by the snakes that we heard earlier.
I
in
know.
the story. But this is like the turning point of Archie's life is meeting Gertrude. So he's like actually in love with her.
okay.
He demonstrates this by changing her name. He calls her Anahorio. Why? Who knows?
Anahorio.
Anahario?
Anahorio.
She had been raised in the town of Mattawa, Ontario, east of North Bay, not in the bush, so not in like the forest.
Right.
Archie
On
was
the
the
roads.
one. Archie's the one who taught her how to survive in the forest. That winter,
Knife
however,
throwing a piano playing.
after we do our piano lessons, sweetheart, I'm going to teach you how to throw a knife and live in the woods. That winter, however, he had great difficulty in locating enough fur-bearing animals to make a living. In particular, he found a tremendous decline in the number of beaver, the result of an influx of trappers from other areas. And so Ontario was having to ban non-native peoples from running trap lines.
Yeah.
Archie wrote that it was Anaharia's influence that led him to think more deeply about conservation and that she encouraged his writing. After accompanying him on a trap line, Anaharia attempted to make him see the torture that animals suffered when they were caught in traps. He hunted down a beaver home where he knew a mother beaver would be and set a trap for her. When the trap caught the mother beaver, Archie began to canoe away to the cries of the kitten beavers, which greatly resembled the sound of human infants.
Oh my god.
It's what they say. So
What?
yeah. So
it sounds like
no,
you're
no. You guys have no idea. So I
we don't.
No. So my dad snares rabbits, and rabbits scream like little babies, and you hear them. It's like they scream bloody murder. You hear them squealing. It's horrible, because traps don't kill animals. So you then go and then you look down at it and you're like, meet your maker, little buddy. And then you usually kill
Do you
it.
have
I
to
love your
say
dad.
that before
Yes,
killing them? Is this
you
a
do.
prerequisite
We're in
for
Canada
murdering
now.
small animals?
And this is what you have to say. You have to be a man about it.
I love that your dad is casually telling you this. It's like, oh yeah,
Grace, I
it's
went. I used to
traumatizing.
go as
Why?
a child on the back of the 4-wheeler because what was my dad going to do with me? I grew up in rural Nova Scotia.
What
my
a
dad gonna
fun
do with
family
me?
activity.
He stole one of the green containers from Sobeys, and he would strap me in it with like my baby stuff and take me to go rabbit snaring in the woods.
Oh god,
Skinning a rabbit, easiest thing you'll ever do.
I don't know
Comes
if
off
that's
like a
true.
I
sweater.
don't think that's
That's
true.
horrible. Oh my god, I'm
skinned a
learning
rabbit
so
and
much
I'm
about
British.
you right now. This is,
Mark is like he's meeting a whole new person.
yeah, I'm just,
Mark's like,
And then my parents got divorced when I was 11, and we moved to Lunenburg, and it was a much different life.
And you never got to kill rabbits again.
No.
skinning a rabbit is the easiest thing you'll ever do. It's like pulling off a sweater.
It
It's
comes
the
off
most
like a sweater.
horrifying thing I've heard all month.
You put
welcome to the
just-
Minute
you
Women podcast.
put your feet on its feet.
I don't want more
and then you
details.
just go,
No, stop.
stop.
You know, he said
Something more pleasant. Scallops.
he said he'd been kayaking away from the screams that sounded like babies. He'd been
Yes.
doing that his whole life anyway.
Oh yeah.
Oh, but that was good.
Oh,
That was good.
So
What I
whether it was a
saying?
beaver crying through starvation and mourning,
Or if it's a
whether-
real
or his
child.
own child.
his own child, it made no difference to Archie.
This is the only life I know.
But you paddled away, but he didn't go back.
well, I feel like he was affected this time. Is this the moral of the story?
Well,
That-
he's with Anaharia, who didn't grow up doing any of this and hasn't abandoned any children that we know of. Right. So
Yeah.
she's just like, this is horrible. So Anaharia begged him to set the mother free, but he could not be swayed from his position because they needed the money from the beaver's pelt. The next day, he went back for the baby.
So I'm sorry. What,
Yes.
the babies have been. I'm trying to picture
no,
what's going on.
the babies are alive. They've taken the mother. They're gonna kill the mother, take her pelt. So
I
as
see.
a result,
Okay.
the babies are totally gonna die
They're
because
just
they
gonna
have no
die
one to
off.
look after
I
them.
understand. I thought he had trapped a bunch of babies, and he's like, nope, they're just going to remain there until they die of starvation. No. She's like, please put them out of the misery. No,
Never.
No, they're just in the den.
They're just crying because
Yeah.
their mother has been killed.
Unless
It's
it's
a
a Disney
very
film.
Bambi situation.
Well, they might get raised by rabbits and other animals like Disney.
Yeah.
And sing
That's
songs.
why he had the menagerie.
Exactly.
So the next day, he goes back for the baby beavers, and the couple adopts them. So Anaharia is like so distressed, which I will say, this is totally what happens when it's like an old man and his like sugar baby. And she's just like, well, what about the babies? And so they adopt exotic animals.
And
Fur
he's just like,
babies.
will you just shut up? Will you just shut up if I let you have the babies?
I
And
will
she's
get
like,
the baby beavers for you. She's like, okay, daddy. This is 100% what she called him. So this experience led him to believe that hunting of any kind was immoral. So he's had this like come to God moment that like hunting is bad
Because she told him to.
because she was sad about it.
Right.
Which also is
Wow.
not a good representation of indigenous lifestyles.
Yeah.
Like I know he's a huge for conservation and but the idea that hunting
Right.
of any kind is immoral.
well, although I talked about my dad, that was not for pure sport. Like my dad eats all of the game
yeah.
that he kills. Like
Oh,
it's
yeah.
not, my dad doesn't do that for the pleasure of killing. Like
Oh,
he's
yeah.
very much like a
That you
grew
know
up.
of.
No, like he grew up like with him and his dad's dad. Like this is just a thing that they do. So like
Yeah.
it never, as a kid, like it was never to me as like this was being mean to little baby animals. Like
Yeah.
it was that this is like what you do. This is the season for this, and then you make this, and
yeah,
you
and
eat it.
like respecting that, and like I think it's a huge part of a lot of First Nations cultures in Canada that you have this sense that effective hunting and proper hunting is part of the natural life cycle
Yeah.
of the
Yeah.
area. Like I know back home we're overrun with moose because there was for a long time just this flat out ban on hunting moose, and so they had to have a cull for hunting moose,
Yeah.
and it was only Mi'kmaq people that were allowed to participate in the call,
Yeah.
which was hilarious because there was this huge protest. Some white people protesting, they're like, "How dare you hunt moose?" And then other white people protesting alongside them who are like, "How dare you let me not hunt the moose?"
Yeah. Well,
Crazy.
It's like, whoever thought this alliance would happen?
Yeah, what a weird combination.
I know.
welcome to our current political climate, which this is not a political podcast, so we will not get into it.
But I will say the CBC interviews were hilarious because there was just they'd be like interviewing some people and they're like, "It's immoral. You shouldn't be hunting in national parks." Like and then it would go to this next guy who clearly like pulled up on his like 4-wheeler and he's like in his like suit. He's like, "Listen, we have no problem with hunting moose. We just want to do it too."
But I guess like the indigenous, it was a kind of an element of stewardship, wasn't it? It was like take from the land, but also
It is.
not-
Yeah.
It still is.
conserve and protect. as
Yeah.
well
Yeah,
at the same time.
absolutely.
An element of stewardship for sure.
But then
Yeah.
he decided he knew better, and they shouldn't hunt at all.
They shouldn't hunt
And
at all
should eat
because
tins
any
of
kind of
beans
hunting is
and-
immoral,
Yeah.
which is fine. You can have that perspective. It's just when you say you're an indigenous person and that you're representing like the
Yeah.
indigenous way of life by fully misrepresenting what their philosophies
Yeah,
are.
exactly.
Right.
So Archie began writing about his life in the forest and about environmental conservation. His first published article being for the influential English magazine Country Life in 1929, and the next in 1930 for Forest and Outdoors. So he's got a whole bunch of publications putting his articles out. He's infamous. And this was brought out by the Canadian Forestry Association. So like they recognize that he can be used as a good media tool to
Okay.
bring attention to forestry. When Country Life asked for a book, he used the new name he had given to Forest Out and Outdoors, and the work appeared as The Men of the Last Frontier by Grey Owl in late 1931. So this is the first time he's officially using his pseudonym.
And he named
Grey Owl.
himself.
He named himself, yeah.
Does this seem like the type of guy who would name himself? Yes.
He's naming other people.
Yeah.
Well, what he actually did is he rebranded.
Right. Yeah.
Yes, he's going through a relaunch or rebranding. He's like, I don't want to be known for drinking and knife throwing anymore. Well, actually, we can keep the knife throwing. That's pretty badass.
The focus group said that the owl is wise, so that's a good animal to associate with.
Right.
There we go.
And gray is
There's
just like a
actually-
chill color.
It's a neutral color.
Yeah.
There we go.
We actually know why he called himself that.
Oh yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
It wasn't rebranded.
No, Grace is gonna tell you.
So in the book, he explains like kind of his valid concerns about the future of Canada and his forests, and he explains the story of the beaver pelt and how Anaharia had really helped him understand the need for conservation and protecting animals. The choice for the name Grey Owl came easily since he had imitated the hoot of an owl since his boyhood days.
Wow.
That's it.
He should have just called himself Attic Snake.
Where are all my mice? The publisher explained his author's background in a note in the book. His father was a Scot. His mother was an Apache Indian from New Mexico, and he was born somewhere in Rio Grande 40 odd years ago.
40 odd.
Yep.
That's his background.
Roughly 40 years
And
ago.
it's like, and no questions. Please do not ask any more questions.
And did it say, and he's never been to Hastings?
And he's absolutely never been to Hastings once in his life. And he said, who's Hastings? Archie was becoming very famous as Grey Owl. His articles had led to his appointment in the spring of 1931 as a conservation officer or a caretaker for park animals with the Department of the Interior's National Parks branch at Riding Mountain National Park in Manitoba. After 6 months, he was transferred to Prince Albert National Park in Saskatchewan. During the Great Depression, a time when thousands of Canadians were thrown out of work, Archie managed to keep a job. He completed his next 3 books in the Prince Albert Park. The, quote, Beaver Man was known to live at Beaver Lodge.
What an unfortunate nickname.
Was it a soddy?
Not a soddy. It's a log cabin that was roughly 18 by 20 feet. The beavers that he and Anaharia had tamed built their dam both inside and outside of the cabin.
Shut up.
So they had like a beaver family.
They had a beaver family.
Wow.
I can't.
Because they made sure that there was like an underwater tunnel under the log cabin so the beavers could like come and go as they pleased, which is kind of cool.
That's amazing.
actually
It
pretty
does
sick.
sound incredible.
This is his good
This
idea.
is some Narnia shit right
No,
here.
this is a Disney film.
Yeah, this is
Seriously.
talking beavers guiding you through your journey. They just came through the
Come with
wardrobe,
me.
you know? Like,
And you'll see.
I like to think they'd solve crimes together.
It's just the beavers in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, like in the very like first part of the book.
did you just miss my joke?
Oh yeah, yep, I did. I do
Full
that a
on
lot.
Narnia over here. Yeah.
Happens when there's two other people.
Sorry. I surrender my joke to Linnea. She said it first.
I said it was some Narnia shit.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
That was a joke.
That was a joke, and it was funny.
If you want to email in,
Please email in.
We need a joint email now.
That being said, despite his Disney perfect life, his consumption of alcohol at Prince Albert National Park created friction between himself and the park's branch as he was seen to, quote, indulge too freely in liquor. end
Where is
quote.
he getting all this booze?
I mean, he's probably making it. Like,
I guess.
Well, I'm thinking like when you said that, he went into the woods to survive by himself or with his 19-year-old third wife or something, I don't know. And he couldn't make enough to live off of with the pelts. I'm thinking like, you're living in the woods, you
Yeah.
know, you've got a log cabin, you're hunting, you know how to hunt. What do you need to make a living for? Booze is the first thought that came to my mind, right?
liquor,
Like,
Yeah.
probably, yeah.
Yeah.
I bet the advantageous 19-year-old though taught him how to make some moonshine.
Potentially, yeah.
yeah, all
Maybe that was
19-year-olds
the
know how to make
in.
moonshine.
but
It's just
also he's had a traumatic childhood.
Yeah.
He's probably got some
sounds
form,
like a fun childhood race.
but he's probably got some form of PTSD from World War One
Yep, definitely.
and an injury that reminds him every day of the horrors of war.
Oh, yeah.
Non-stop trench foot. Yeah.
Non-stop trench foot.
Welcome to history,
Chronic
Reese.
trench foot.
Chronic trench foot.
And yet he's living in the woods in this kind of idyllic, cabin.
Living with the beavers.
Solving crimes in a van with beavers.
I just can't help but imagine he's living, but like just in the woods. If he ever
Like the
needed to
freeways
come back.
right there.
But I guess the alcohol is part of that kind of what he's been through in life, I guess.
Yeah, I think that alcohol is definitely like a coping mechanism. There could also be some kind of genetic disposition to it, given that his father did the exact same
He
thing.
could also just like it.
So his excessive alcohol consumption constantly threatened Grey Owl's position in the Dominion Parks branch in Ottawa. He was supposed to meet a group of important governmental officials at the studio of Youssef Karsh, who had organized a dinner in his honor. However, as the dinner began, Grey Owl was absent. Karsh later found him, quote, raising a drunken row in the bar, end quote. His public display...
Raising a drunken row.
Like the old piano and knife act.
Do you want to hear about my dad? It's dark. This public display of a Parks Branch employee drunk in public caused James Harkin to have to defend Grey Owl's position within the Parks Branch to the Assistant Deputy Minister Roy A. Gibson.
You know what that all sounded like to me? The whole like not showing up for like an event that you were supposed to be at is John A. when he was
Yeah.
supposed to sign the
Constitution.
The Constitution.
And he shows up months late.
3 months later.
Yeah.
I thought it was October. I thought it's
this-
not.
Is this John A. as Jack Sparrow again? Is this,
It's Linnea
Oh,
as John A.
I thought
or
it
as
was-
Jack Sparrow as
It's
John
Johnny
A.
Depp as Keith Richards combined with Pepe Le Pew as Jack Sparrow, as Archie Belaney, as Grey Owl, as Sir John A. Macdonald.
Jesus Christ.
This podcast is just Inception. It's only layers. We're gonna go deeper. So from his publications and films that the National Parks Branch had made with him and the beaver, Grey Owl became widely known in Canada and overseas. His popularity in Britain was phenomenal, so they love him over there.
They just love him.
Horatio Dixon, a Canadian who had a thriving publishing firm in London, brought out his second book, Pilgrims of the Wild, by Grey Owl, in 1934. In the story of how, thanks to Anahario's influence, he had become a conservationist. The following year, his children's book appeared, The Adventures of Sajo and Her Beaver People.
Oh my God.
See, you beat me to it.
Her beaver people?
Her beaver people.
And it was a bestseller, ladies and gentlemen.
Of course.
I bet it was.
I read it to my kids last night.
How is it?
I love reading about Sajo's beaver.
Well, her beaver people.
Her beavers.
Yeah.
Not just her beaver.
Not just hers, her people's.
And they're beavers.
All of their beavers.
Oh my God.
At Dickens' invitation, he made a tour of Britain in late 1935 and early 1936.
Did you say a Dickens invitation?
So Horatio Dickens is the publisher.
Oh, wait, I was like,
Yeah.
Charles
Not,
Dickens?
not that Charles Dickens, no.
There's only one Dickens.
That dude's dead. That dude's long dead.
Whoa.
I think.
Oh, what about his kid?
Well,
Remember, we know him.
Yeah, his kid does make an appearance in one of our episodes.
Yeah.
Because he was
He loves books.
yeah, he was like an agent with the Northwest Mounted Police.
Yeah.
Just Charles Dickens' son.
Yeah.
Hubert Dickens?
Not,
No.
not
Carl
Hubert.
Dickens.
Carl Dickens, right.
A
sorry, yeah.
way less popular one.
Carl Dickens.
The one that he sent to Canada to just like get away from him.
Yeah, basically.
Thanks to his publisher's promotional skills and the attraction of the message of the modern Hiawatha, which I guess is the people, the 4-month trip
beaver people?
proved the beaver people. The 4-month trip proved extremely successful. In his lectures, accompanied by his films, he told his audiences about the vast northern forests and their human and animal inhabitants. His overriding theme was, quote, remembering you belong to nature, not it to you.
Okay.
So
That's a good message.
It's nice.
That's
Yeah,
nice.
that is nice.
It's lovely.
It doesn't really like mean anything,
Right.
but it's nice.
It's a nice message.
Alcohol was still a major vice in
Oh,
Archie's
good.
life.
Sure.
On the ship back to Canada from his 1935 British tour, it was noted that he drank heavily, ate only onions, and was noticeably ill.
What?
I wonder why.
Fuck. I mean, okay, don't get me wrong. How many times, Reese, have you and I just gotten to the bottle and just like, oh my God, I could really use a fucking onion right now. Just,
Like an apple. Just like,
That's my
Right?
health kick after Christmas.
That's
January the 1st, just onions till February.
It's the new keto diet. It's just onions.
you'll smell awful and probably lose some weight.
Probably.
My own sweat makes me cry. Anyway, yeah.
But also, I would just like to highlight that this is on a trip from Britain to North America. That's like a long boat ride.
It's got to be like 3 or 4 weeks.
to be just eating
Just
onions.
eating onions.
And they're like, there's other food. And he's like, no,
Not for
Not to
this
me.
guy.
not
Yeah.
this man.
Maybe he was a picky eater.
Maybe. I like that he's picky, but like onions is his go-to.
That's all I like on the buffet. So
Just raw onions.
His triumph in Britain brought him more publicity back home. One of his grandest moments in Canada was his talk in 1936 at the Toronto Book Fair. On the evening of November 9th, the tall, hawk-faced man, dressed in buckskins and wearing his long hair in braids, addressed a capacity crowd of 1,700 people at the King Edward Hotel. It's
Wow.
like a huge crowd.
that's a huge crowd.
It's a big audience for Mr. Grail.
He had just published his 4th and final book, Tales of an Empty Cabin.
I thought it was going to be a cooking book about
So
onions.
sad.
Whoa.
Tales
Whoa,
of an Empty Cabin.
guys, I just had a revelation.
Okay.
Okay.
He's Gray Owl, and like owls eat mice, and he was like the keep. Maybe he was eating all the mice.
Potentially.
It wasn't the snake.
He's blaming the snake.
He's blaming the snake, but it was him.
It was really
Now
him.
we know why his rampant alcoholism was a thing. Right,
Yeah.
yeah okay. That's,
And why he thinks like onions are great.
Or
He's like, have
suitable
you ever
food."
tried not eating mice? It's delectable.
a spoonful
Yeah, like
of
literally
onions help the
anything
mice
he's
go down.
He's only been eating mice this entire time, and then finally, someone's like, "Try literally anything else at all," and hands him an onion. He's like, "This is amazing.
Holy shit. Is this how the other half live?
What's it called? I don't care. It's not mice." That's,
From that moment on, I never ate another mouse.
That's his 5th book.
Why was it called The Empty Cabin? Had the beavers and his wife left him? Or?
I'm really not sure, but it sounds sad. It sounds like
Yeah.
he's an empty nester. Well,
Tales from an Empty Cabin.
Tales
That's
from
so
an empty cabin.
sad.
I know. The fair's organizers had to turn away more than 500 people at the door. Inside, the champion
crazy.
of the Canadian wilderness argued in his deep and thrilling voice, quote, "Canada's greatest asset today is her forest lands. In my latest book, I have attacked the average Canadian's ignorance of his own country. He is prouder of skyscrapers on Yonge Street and the price of hogs. He can..."
They are exorbitant.
How many times have I complained about the price of hogs? There goes Jesse on his fucking hog rant again. Oh my God, will you ever shut up?
He can have those... Sorry, I just now am picturing a pig with like an onion in its mouth. He can have those anytime, but we can't replace the natural resources we are destroying as fast as we can. In Canada, Grey Owl pleaded there was no longer an overabundance of wild country and wildlife. He called for an end to the plundering of the country's hinterland. The price of fame was high. Although the birth of their daughter, Shirley Dawn, in August of 1932 had brought much happiness to him and
Another
Naharia.
kid.
Kid number 4?
So this is kid number 4, but at least he's like around for this one.
Okay.
For a while, spoiler alert. Their relationship deteriorated as his mission as a conservationist
Who did
became
he get,
all-consuming.
sorry for interrupting. Who did he get pregnant? Was it?
So this is Naharia.
Oh,
This
it's
is-
the same one stuck around.
Yeah, so they never
Okay.
get married, but they are like
I just assumed
partners.
like Tales from an Empty Cabin kind of insinuated like at some
The
point.
man's also a liar. So, well, it gets empty.
Well, his young wife, anxious to have a full life of her own, found his new sedentary ways and his constant writing excessive. Frictions.
Constant writing?
Constant writing. She has the weakest complaint against him, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's like, you're writing all the time. But this is what happens when you marry someone who's 18 years younger than you.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh my God, he's so successful. He's got so many number 1 published books. I hate it. Oh,
I
God.
just wanna go to
all
Canada's
this
Wonderland.
money. Just
That
Remember when
he
you
spends on booze and renamed me. You think she gets any of that money? I don't.
The real complaint was the onions. She's like, I really just can't deal with this anymore. Frictions increased and they separated in 1936 after his first British tour. Later that year, he married Yvonne Perrier, a French-Canadian woman from Ottawa. She accompanied him on his second and final tour of Britain in late 1937. It lasted 3 months and included a Royal Command performance at Buckingham Palace.
wow.
He followed his trip with
He's really quite a ladies' man. Like he's like, oh, that marriage is over. Next. It's
next.
amazing.
I got a question. You know when he did the performances, I'm guessing he wasn't doing it in a British accent. He was putting on an estimation of an indigenous accent.
Yeah, he's doing his best to be like Canadian. So I think people liked him and they welcomed him because he was approachable to their
Right.
sensibilities because
Right.
he's not indigenous, but he's like seems like he's like just exotic enough
Right.
for them.
Is he being looked at kind of like a spectacle? Or are they actually interested in what he has to say? Or is it like, ooh, it's like this
I'm sure it's a
indigenous
combination of
guy. Like,
Was he selling T-shirts afterwards?
Do you have merch? Yeah. Stuffed gray owls you can buy.
Little plush onions.
Glowing wands for kids.
Throwing knives on display. You can buy his first record, his piano recordings. So the pioneer environmentalist devoted all of his physical and emotional strength to his mission by the end of his life. At the beginning of April 1938, he returned to Beaver Lodge totally exhausted. Only 3 days later, he had to be rushed to the hospital. Too weak to resist what was a mild case of pneumonia, he died on the 13th of April at the age of 49. He was buried near his cabin on Ajawan Lake. The Toronto Globe and Mail, in its obituary on the 14th of April, termed Grey Owl the, quote, most famous of Canadian Indians, end quote. The media on 2 continents had accepted without question his romantic story of his origins. Then the bombshell dropped.
Yeah.
So Angèle, she's coming out of the woodwork,
yes, girl. Yes.
claiming that she was his legal wife and that he was English. Which is the best revenge
Yes.
right at the end.
Angèle. Tell it.
And then he couldn't even defend himself because he was dead.
He's dead. That's when you make claims.
Exactly.
Furthermore, although she had not seen him for several years, she is the one who winds up inheriting most of his estate because she's the legal wife.
Yep.
Right.
In the weeks after his death, swift detective work on both sides of the Atlantic revealed Grey Owl's true identity. He had no North American ancestry at all. So the most famous Canadian Indian was really just Archie Belaney, born of the son of English parents and raised in the seaside town of Hastings.
Amazing.
And that's the story of Grey
And
Owl.
that's the story of Archie Hastings, a.k.a. Grey Owl, a.k.a.
Jack
Sparrow,
a.k.a. Johnny
Johnny
Depp,
Depp.
a.k.a. Pierce Brosnan. How'd
Impeccable
you like
too.
it?
That was amazing.
It's a hell of a. I can see why they made a film about it, but you said it was a bad film. Imagine if someone made a good film.
I'm just going to quickly look up
That
the
doesn't happen in Canada
the
recently.
Well, I was
IMDb
also going to
ratings.
say I don't think I don't know how well a film about Grey Owl would do
Not
right now.
well, is-
Anyway,
yeah.
No, I think, but
It
not
has-
even
not-
expose him as if you focus on the bad parts of his story.
I think he's very much the protagonist of the story, so
Right.
I don't think it shows or really emphasizes.
Well, let's look at his points. So, A, alcoholic. B, shitty father. C, a hell of a conservationist. D, a great liar. Just
I was going to say, and E, a great lay apparently.
apparently, yeah. And I'm wondering about Angel. Like, I don't know much about her, but she seems
She's
a
compelling.
little crazy.
Yeah.
You know? Oh, hun, but the baby beavers. No, we're gonna.
No, that's
we're gonna,
not Angel.
That's not Angel.
That's on a
No,
Hario.
that's on a Hario.
Too many wives.
Too many wives,
Yeah, too many
yeah.
wives. Okay, yeah.
no,
That's-
Angel.
That's why he had to rename them.
Yeah.
Because he was just like, I'm never going to remember this. So, sweetheart, if we're going to be together, your name's Anahario from now on. So I've looked up Grey Owl. It has 6 out of 10 on IMDb.
Okay.
But it has 17% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh my God.
So I got a feeling modern audiences don't take particularly
let's go
well
with
to
Rotten
this
Tomatoes.
film.
This was made like in the early 90s, it looks like.
Yeah.
Yes, it came out in 1999. So later than I
late
thought.
wow, yeah, yeah.
'90s.
Way
That is,
later
that's
than I
later
thought.
than. So he was 007 before this.
So he
Yeah.
owed someone a favor. Like,
sure did.
But maybe it was a passion project.
maybe it was like an Oscar bait. Like, what
Yeah,
if he
yeah,
thought,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
what
yeah,
if I
that's
play
it.
this? Like, you know,
That's
Last of
totally-
Mohicans had come
That's true.
out.
Yeah,
You know,
that's true.
he's just like, what if I could just follow in this guy's footsteps
No, that's
and
exactly what it
also
is.
play an
Yeah.
Indigenous person?
I would like to see this film remade by Wes Anderson.
Oh my God! Right? Oh my God!
That would be, yeah. Wow.
That'd be a movie.
I can't even, just the weird quirks that he has, like
Yeah, yeah.
eating onions
Exactly.
on the ship. Yeah.
Just him on the front of a ship eating an onion, looking at shot on like a in like a really.
But they never explain it.
No,
Yeah.
no,
Like
exactly.
Brad
Yeah.
Pitt in Ocean's 11, where he's always eating in every single shot, but just have Pierce Brosnan just
Always
eating an
eating
onion,
onions.
always eating an onion, and no one ever talks about it or explains
Yeah.
whatsoever. He's just doing it.
Or maybe it could be more like Fantastic Mr. Fox, and he is a gray owl. Like,
Oh.
yeah.
Oh, I like that.
You can call me Wes. It's fine.
It's an image of him just holding an onion, talking to someone, going, chewing it up, and then going.
And also, like, whoever is playing him, which it's going to be Johnny Depp, it's like method acting. So he has to eat an actual onion.
Of course,
for
like
every
Johnny
scene.
Depp, that's
Yeah.
what he would do.
Can't be a fake prop onion that's carved
Yeah.
out of an apple.
Did Johnny Depp purposely contract COVID-19 to lose his sense of taste so he could play Grey Owl in the new film Grey Owl?
So, Reese, what did you think of your first Canadian Heritage Minute?
Well-
cherry popping.
I'll be honest, I didn't get a lot for that minute, but the following hour of talking about it, I did learn a lot. Like I said, the Heritage.
It failed. But
No, but that's what I think. The Heritage Minute is a tease. They give you a little
It is.
tickle to get your interest,
Yeah.
and then you go and do the research yourself. That's what I imagine it is.
I think that was the dream. So
Yeah.
we're really fulfilling the Canadian dream
We
right
are.
now.
We
I was
are
just
the
gonna say.
Canadian dream.
You embody the
dream.
Canadian dream. I noticed Jesse didn't weave his story in seamlessly.
Oh,
at that
right.
point.
Yeah. Well, no, there was at what point could I have done that?
All right. Well, thank you so much to our very special guests from Canadian Politics is Boring who joined us today. It was a great way to close out our season 2.
Thanks so much for having us.
Oh, yeah. No, it was wonderful. It was great. For all those of you who aren't following us on our social media platforms, what are you doing? Please do. We are on Instagram and Facebook at Minute Women Podcast, and we are on Twitter at The Minute Women. We also have a really fantastic website that has all of our episodes, including all of the background information that Grace uses for research. So all of those sources are all on the website as well. Very
Did you hear that,
easy to
Reese?
find.
Did you hear that?
Sorry. Stop interrupting their outro.
This isn't meant
So
to be.
rude.
This isn't meant to be a flex. And make sure you subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you listen to us on, because we're going to be gone next week because it is our kind of like week off. But then we'll be back for season 3, so you better subscribe so you know when to tune in next. And make sure you rate the podcast, review the podcast, especially on Apple Podcasts.
Please.
The mythic algorithm of the internet has decided that's the most important thing in the world. So if you're an Apple Podcast user, please leave us a review. It's the biggest support to us. And yeah, thank you to Canadian Politics is Boring for joining us. Do you guys have any like handles or like it's like where they can find you?
Just around.
On the corner.
Just shout it out of a window.
Well, thank you, Reese and Jesse, so much. This was really, really
That
fun.
was
Yeah,
a lot of
it
fun.
was super
Thanks so much.
fun.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.